Hi, John Kavakis here with another edition of My Take, and this is a special one. You know, I'm a big Brooklyn fan. I'm excited about where they're going and some of the things they have coming down the pike. But being a fan, it's also good to know where they came from. Brooklyn has always had a very dedicated base of passionate collectors. They've kind of moved with them as they've gone through their changes, and that base continues to grow with clubs like the NABCC and the BCC. Well, back in 1992 and 1993, two noted collectors, David Angel and John Hammick, got together and made a series of 3 videos. I've got them right here. And they document the history and the production of Brooklyn, starting with Brooklyn 1, the Pierce Arrow, and going all the way through production in 1993. Well, up until now, those videos have only been available on VHS. You can get them on the secondary market, eBay, and that sort of thing. But with Brooklyn's permission, I've had them digitized, and we're going to present them all here on the channel so that you can take a look at them. Now, there's going to be some surprises in here. You know, the quality could be a little bit better because they've been converted from VHS, but it's perfectly fine. They are engaging, they are entertaining. There are some surprises in here. You'll see the garage that John Hall started the company with, and you're going to find out some really neat stuff, like Brooklyn originally started by making resin, and you'll hear John Hall's reasoning for going to white metal. So my suggestion is that the videos are long, they're about an hour or so. Get yourself a cup of coffee, maybe a cup of tea, and relax, and let's take a stroll through the past. I've got some Earl Grey cream right here. Let's just have a good time looking back and remembering where all this started.
Welcome to Bath on this cold December day. We'd like to show you the factory where we manufacture models of these beautiful American cars of the 1950s. Please feel welcome, come inside and see how we do it. When we've set out to design and build a model car, we have to find the vehicle, we have to find the drawings. Collectors are very observant, are looking for accuracy, and as you know, we're not making toy models, we're making models for collectors. So we obtain as much information as possible. I have contacts in the United States and Canada and Australia. There are English cars American cars in this country that we can use. And from that point, we actually sculpt the model in brass. And I should say at this point, the difference between our process, which is centrifugal casting, and die casting, which is the mass-produced technique, is die casting uses steel dies, expensively made, into which a zinc alloy is injected. The tooling costs are phenomenal. Consequently, these models aren't made for collectors. They're made for kids to get the volume. So we start out, having found the drawings, the vehicle, which is measured, we then sculpt by hand an original brass master. This is our model for next year. It's a 1939 Graham shark nose. Very little machining involved. Everything has to be done by hand. So we're producing the vehicle which we're going to model totally in brass. Once we've reached that point, this is a complete assembled model. It's broken down into component parts, and from that we make rubber molds. We use a nitrile rubber, which was inherited from the jewelry industry, and it means we can actually cast a very complicated piece, very complicated shape, with severe undercuts, without expensive tooling, because rubber, as you know, flexes. We can get things out of the mold. Once we've produced our rubber molds, these then go into centrifugal casting machines. Some of them are standard machines, which again inherited from the jewelry industry. Others are purposely designed by us for our own use, especially for the large section bodies, in order to get some volume production, accurate size, accurate shape. Because the biggest problem we have in rubber mold technology is controlling tolerances. As you can imagine, at the beginning of the day, a mold would be cold, the machine would be cold, we pour metal into it. After 3 or 4 hours operation, everything heats up, we have expansion to contend with. The die casting people can control tolerances, as any solid die manufacturing process can. We can't do that. So it's very difficult to produce these models in any sort of volume, making sure that each one goes together as well as the last one. But we seem to have solved most of the problems. We do some fettling operations. We're pretty good at our casting, but some of the pieces, like a large body, may have some slight flash in these areas, which has to be cleaned, and it's a labor-intensive process. Parts that are nickel-plated go out for nickel plating. Other parts go into the painting area for painting. Once everything's painted and prepared, they're then fed into the assembly area, where we have various sub-assembly sections, our seats, base plates, steering wheels, dashboards are assembled in one area, bodies are assembled in another area, everything comes together and the model is completed. The nature of this business is labor-intensive. The price of a Brooklin model is at least 3 or 4 times that of a mass-produced toy. The main advantage of our business is because of the much lower investment cost to start out, as opposed to die casting, we can produce unusual models. Like, it's very unlikely that any mass producer of toys, say Dinky Toys or Corgi Toys, would produce a model of a shark-nosed Graham. The appeal is not wide enough. They need to sell tens of thousands of their models to recoup their investment. We can get away with much less than that.
Good afternoon, Brooklyn Models.
While this impressive, labour-intensive production process is of vital importance to Brooklyn Models, behind every successful company is a skilled and efficient administration, able to cope with the wide variety of queries and orders that come from all over the world. The skill and enthusiasm of the team at Brooklyn Models is reflected in John Hall's passion for excellence. So let John Hall tell us how the Brooklyn story began.
It began 18 years ago in a little village in southern Ontario, Canada, called Brooklin, spelt with an I, not a Y. Americans can't understand how their favourite suburb of New York is spelt wrongly, but we have to correct them. And it arose out of a passion for collecting model cars. I had probably had one of the most important collections of early Dinky Toy and Tootsie Toy in North America. I was scratch building models, mainly to feed my collecting habits. I can remember going to a very important railway layout in Toronto that had an amazing collection of early Dinky Toys, which they wouldn't sell to me. They wouldn't swap old for new. But they said, if you scratch build some models for us, we might consider swapping. So that's what I did. I have very few of them left, but that got me started into the beginnings of making model cars. Some friends of mine in Buffalo, New York, where a very important car was made, the Pierce Arrow Silver Arrow, suggested that perhaps I could make them a few models to celebrate some anniversary or some celebration. So I started making that, making masters out of balsa wood, out of bits of rubber, whatever I could find. And the first Brooklin model was actually made of resin because I had no understanding of metal casting methods. I seem to recall blowing the resin down a tube, down a straw to get some pressure into the molds, finding the molds were sagging, so using a popsicle stick to support them. It was Heath Robinson, but it was early days. And one model led to two, two led to three, three led to four. And one day my wife Jenny said, "You're going to have to do this full time." So she got a job, I took the kids home, and we started Brooklin Models in the basement of our house in Brooklyn. I'd been teaching college in the community college system over there. And in fact, the first factory before the house basement was a small, unheated lock-up in Oshawa, Ontario. It was 10 feet by 10 feet with no heating, and I can remember temperatures below zero. In 1979, we decided to return to England for various reasons. My father was ill. We felt like a change. We thought Europe might be a good place to sell model cars. We had no idea where to go. We come from South London originally, and it's very difficult for an immigrant to go home again. Things have changed. So we came to Bath and fell in love with the place and decided that's the place we would like to be. And the first factory we found was an old mill at the back of Huggett Electricals, electrical panel company in Bath. It was a 250-year-old building with the mill race still in position. We were upstairs. It was inconvenient, but it got us going. And after about 4 years, we were running out of space, and the new Pinesway development was being started in Bath in a very central location, very modern high-tech factories. So we decided to move into that operation, which is where we are today.
This video covers reference numbers BRK1 to 9 inclusive, beginning with the 1933 Pierce Arrow. We asked John Hall about the first models in this range.
Thank you for showing me these. These are in fact the only two resin models we ever made. And it's the first time in 20 years they've ever been together. This one belongs to the factory, and this one, I understand, is owned by an English collector. I'm still at the stage where I find it amazing that people want to buy something we produce. And I can remember that the day I parted with this, a very famous English collector, Guy Harrison, who owned a company called Pirate Models, was in Toronto at a very small swap meet in somebody's house. And he had a wonderful early lead English racing car that I badly wanted. He wouldn't sell it to me. He said, "I'll swap it for that model." And I was absolutely amazed that the man would take this, which, let's face it, is not the greatest model in the world, for a very important collectible piece.
John Hall goes on to talk about the early white metal models.
After making the two resin pieces, other collectors said, "Hey, that's a nice model. We'd like something like that." I felt the future wasn't in resin; it was in white metal, to get some heft and some permanence and some lasting feel, lasting quality. So I went into production with this, and really this was an exercise in designing the casting equipment. I mean, again, it's not the greatest model in the world. If you'll notice on the top of this, there's a very large circle. The first machines that these were produced on were basically a timber construction. The metal was shot into the roof, and I had to take a hacksaw to cut the actual large gate area off, sand it smooth, polish it before painting. These are in fact painted with a brush. I seem to recall about 100 being produced. This is the only one we have in our hands in the factory, this green and grey. There's a nice blue and grey example there. We did them, I believe, in cream and brown, and there was also a maroon and grey version. The quantities I really can't remember. Some have different tyres. The hubs on these things were handmade, turned up on a lathe one at a time. The early days of Brooklin Models.
In addition to the models already mentioned by John Hall, this silver metallic version was made in the same original casting. These 100 early models had hand-turned wheels with white tyres. The previous crude models were soon followed by true-to-scale ones in a more authentic silver grey colour, of which there were a number of shades. The early version, which didn't have window transparencies, had a red resin base. This was changed to a new design of black painted metal when window transparencies were added. About the same time, 100 models were made in champagne metallic. They can be found with red or maroon seats. Towards the end of production in Canada in 1979, two odd colours occurred. The rich, deep blue silver metallic version, shown here, and a pale shade referred to as powder blue. When Brooklyns arrived in England, it was decided to make a new master. Changes included a new, slimmer radiator grille being set into the body. Windscreen wipers were added, and at the back of the model there was a new rear window. Other additions included a number plate, a lock to the boot lid, and detail to the rear lights. The first colour was silver grey metallic, of which there were several shades. A further change of colour to silver blue metallic led to still more colour variations, including medium blue metallic, deep bright blue metallic, and two variations of lavender blue metallic, which are both very rare. Towards the end, a bluish-grey metallic occurred before the introduction of a dashboard. The colour was then changed to a medium bright blue metallic. This model has been used as a promotional for Harrah's automotive collection. 150 pieces were made in silver metallic with a dark blue interior. 50 two-tone Code 3 versions were produced. They can be found in dark silver metallic and silver metallic. The first 1948 Tucker Torpedo is a favourite of John Hall. Let him take up the story.
The Tucker, although it's numbered number 2 in our range, was actually the first model that we seriously got into production. After we produced the 100 Pierce Arrows in the crude form, we shelved it and got onto the Tucker. The Tucker was the love of my life. I remember seeing photographs of this car when I was 12 or 13 and thought, what a strange, unusual car. And I think that probably drove me to start Brooklyn Models to produce a model of this car. The one on the right is a maroon version. I seem to recall making only 14 of these. It's a long time ago, we're talking 18 years. But I seem to remember 14 as being an example, and getting so frustrated with the quality of the paint, not looking right on the model, went to a dark blue version. And this one on the left is an early dark blue version with a very sticky paint that seemed to take forever to dry. We experimented for a while. I don't recall the number we produced of the dark blue ones, but I'm sure, in fact I'm convinced, within a 2 or 3 day period we decided to use a metallic paint to get the sort of finish we desired.
After the maroon, another rare colour in very dark blue, almost black, appeared. However, this was soon superseded by a dark blue version with a grey interior. A red interior is also known but is extremely rare. The dark blue continued in a purple shade, but in very limited numbers. A change to metallic paint followed in shades of both dark and medium blue. These were the last of the Tucker Torpedoes to appear without window transparencies. With the exception of the maroon, all the models without window transparencies had narrow grey bases. However, the base was eventually changed to plain black metal and at the same time, window transparencies were introduced. With this introduction, the dark blue metallic paint continued, and a number of shades are known. Most of the interiors are in grey, but there are some in light beige. Just before the move to England, a very bright orange red was made. It is extremely rare. Very few are known. On arrival in England, the master was changed with the addition of rear number plates and rear lights, now separate and in chrome. Windscreen wipers were also added. The red metallic version can be found with both yellow and blue license plates. Further casting alterations showed improved detail to the rear window and the addition of a badge on the engine cover. The gas flap on the front fender, which was on all previous models, was now removed. This new casting has only appeared in light red metallic and red metallic. A new master was made in 1985, with the base being altered to show BRK2A. Although similar to the old master, it has an aerial, front door locks, and extra detail to the door handles. The seats are plain, the rear parcel shelf ribbed, and the rear engine cover is wider. The red metallic with yellow license plates continued on the standard model, but 85 of the new casting with green license plates were made for the Tucker Club. In 1986, a gold colour was introduced. There were light, medium and dark shades, the light version being the rarest. Early models had a tan interior, but this was soon changed to dark beige. All these models have green license plates. 1986 saw another promotional for Harrah's automotive collection. 150 were made in champagne with grey interiors. In 1988, the Tucker movie was released, The Man and His Dream, and Brooklyn's brought out a souvenir set of 3 models, a 1,000 of each colour. All these models came with a certificate. Various shades have appeared in the set. The turquoise is seen in pale, medium and dark shades. The dark red metallic also has a deep dark red variation. However, the Stratus Silver is on its own. In 1988, Huggett's Electrical forgot to order a model they wanted as a Christmas present for their customers. Given 80 standard Tucker torpedoes, they put on their green and white labels, with factory permission, thus making them Code 2 models. 100 models in light green metallic were made for the Motorama car show in Trondheim, Norway in 1989. The Brooklyn Tucker is a model of Curtis Foister's car. Each model comes with a numbered certificate. Numbers 1 to 50 were engraved on the base, and these were sold at the show. Models numbered E1 to E50 were for export. This one-off model in silver on a plinth and representing the Tin Goose was sold at auction at Motorama, and the money raised was given to the Save the Children Fund. The Tin Goose was the first prototype Tucker. In 1990, 75 models in blue metallic, of which there were 2 shades, were made for the Tucker Club. They had pale turquoise interiors and were soon sold out. A further 125 models were ordered. Due to an error at the factory, a paint similar to the Tucker movie turquoise was used, but with the correct interior colour. This also appears in 2 shades. 1992 sees another version in dark green metallic for the Tucker Club. 750 models have been produced. To start this section on the Ford Model A Victoria, John Hall talks about the early maroon version.
It's one of the few models that I've listened to the trade in terms of people saying to me, you must make a model of this. I don't find the car particularly exciting, but it was a very important car in the development of the American cars in the United States. This one is a very rare version. I seem to recall only 10 of these in the maroon colour. And you'll notice there's no window blister inside. This was the early days of model car manufacture. And we figured at that time that the collector was not particularly interested in window sections. We didn't have the technology to do it properly. So there you see the model as it was sold 16 years ago. Out of interest, you would have seen brass masters. This is the very early Brooklin model master of the Tudor version of this vehicle, which is made in pewter. You notice that the hand-assembled pieces of wire, a very fragile master, but again, the early days of our development.
This model has a plain base, as did the next version, which was the medium brown. It came without and with window transparencies. With the introduction of transparencies, the copyright symbol and year of manufacture, 1976, were added to the base. The base was again changed to allow a smaller and more distinctive engraving to be used. This appeared on the drab green colour. More changes to the base saw the addition of an axle and propeller shaft. These were the last alterations before the move to England. The drab, dull green, like all the Canadian-built Model A's, with the exception of the maroon, had a white roof and tan interior. On arrival in England, 3 colours are known to have been used. Chicle drab green, known as olive, with white or cream wheels. Light chicle drab green, and finally yellowish green. All these models have been found with different coloured roofs. The colour was finally changed to mid-green. Several shades are known. They come with a cream or light beige roof and with cream or white wheels. At the same time, PVC tyres were introduced to replace the metal ones that had been used on all Canadian models and the previous English ones. Black fenders were used throughout until the model was discontinued in July 1985. The last 250 had a signed certificate confirming this. In 1989, the only promotional issue was produced. These were 72 models made for Weber's 72nd anniversary. They were in orange with cream roof and fenders. Sadly, it was the last of Weber's series. The 1937 Chevrolet Coupe first appeared in smoky green, and there are both light and dark versions. Green and cream wheels are known on both variations. The interior and dash colours also vary. There is an issue in black, but let John Hall tell you about this odd version.
I think this is one of about 40 models we produced, and you have to remember in the old days there was no discipline about manufacture. It was fun. We didn't have to think about collectors and history and documentation. And I seem to remember a good friend of mine, George Maxwell, who owns Mini Grid, a model outlet in Canada, getting together one night. We must have had a few Labatt's 50s, which is a strong Canadian beer, and gone down to the basement, turned the spray booth on and said, these would look nice in black. And I think that's how it came about. I mean, his memory might be clearer than mine, but I seem to remember about 40 being produced, and George said, well, I'll take them. He was a distributor at the time, and out they went, and I understand they're very rare right now. And I'm told that there are 2 different interiors as well, which I don't recollect.
The colour was changed to Hummel green, which is often referred to as medium or dark green. They had either a dark beige or tan interior. As with all previous coupes, they had plain bases. However, a detailed base was made just before the move to England, and a few Hummel green models have been seen with the detailed base. On arrival in England, the colour was changed to dark or medium green. This shows the comparison, with the Hummel green on the left. Both dark and medium green models had tan interiors. In 1987, 4 promotional issues were made on this model. These were 70 cream models made for Weber's 70th anniversary, 150 red models with yellow decals for the James Lake 15th auction, a further 100 models in pale green for the Toledo Toy Fair, and finally, the first of the Illinois Toy Show models. These were in mid-blue with bases engraved 1 to 100. In 1989, a version was made for the Brooklyn Collectors Club. Fender skirts were added and the base engraved with the member's number. 275 were produced. A further version in police livery was made for the San Francisco Bay Brooklyn Club in 1991. Door handles were removed from the casting to accommodate the decal. 300 of these attractive pieces have been produced. The 1930 Ford Model A Tudor sedan is the rarest and most sought after of all the standard models. It was never made in large numbers, and the first models in Thorn Brown had orange wheels and a plain base. The interiors were either beige or grey. There are a limited number with white wheels, and they have plain or detailed bases. Because of changes in manufacturing techniques, it was impossible to continue to use the original pewter master. However, there were enough parts to make 100 models when production moved to England. The colour was changed to dark brown, and it is known with white or cream wheels. All the Tudor models have black roofs and metal tyres. The base was recast in order that Made in England could be shown. To replace the Tudor, a coupe was made. The first models had either a pale green or medium green body with black roof and fenders, beige interior and green wheels. Both colours are known with metal or PVC tyres. The dark green appeared later and is only known with the new PVC tyres. The wheels are light or dark green. Because of various casting problems this model shared with the Victoria, it was discontinued in July 1985. Three promotional and 1 Code 3 have been made on this model, 3 of which are Fire Chief cars. A superb and highly sought-after model is this dark red with a fire extinguisher on the running board. 100 were made. The decal shows Fire Prevention New Orleans, Louisiana. It's believed that the forerunner to this was the Code 3 Norton Fire Chief, which is a similar model but has the early tyres. Numbers made are not known, but probably are very few. The other fire car is the Philadelphia Battalion Fire Chief, of which 300 were made. The last promotional was for the 69th anniversary of Weber's in 1986. 69 black models were made. The first Canadian models of the 1932 Packard Light 8 were in dark maroon with dark maroon fenders, wheels and base, with sand grey interiors. There were several variations of roof colour, including white and grey. The luggage rack was in black, except for the very first models, which were unpainted. The colour of the body was changed to medium silver grey metallic. The fenders are very dark maroon, almost black, and the wheels are red. The interiors remained the same, but the roof has been seen in several different shades of grey. On arrival in England, the light grey metallic model with a red interior had medium blue metallic fenders. Soon after, the roof and fender colour was changed, and these models can be found in many different colour combinations. 4 are seen here, and other combinations are known. A further alteration took place and the body colour was changed to light beige or cream, with brown or dark brown fenders. The early models had a light tan roof, but this was changed to tan or dark tan, and the model was discontinued in 1989. It was replaced with a top-down version in dark green with a cream interior and black fenders. The only Packard used as a promotional is the top-down version in dark blue with blue-grey interior and red fenders. It was one of a pair of models in the first Brooklin boxed set and made for the Merley House Model Museum, Wimborne, England. 500 were made. Early models of the 1934 Chrysler Airflow were in cream with a green interior. However, a few models exist in dark cream or biscuit, and a very few in white. Both Canadian and early English models have Blackwall tyres. When production moved to England, the colour was changed to dark blue with a pale grey interior. Royal blue and the rarer dark muddy blue are also known. When the tyres were changed to the Whitewall type, the blue-coloured body continued, but many shades occurred, from dark muddy blue to royal blue, this being the main standard colour. The standard colour of this unusual 1940 Chrysler Newport was dark or medium green metallic. It had a light brown interior, and it can be found with either yellow or blue license plates. This was the first and only Brooklin car made in Canada to be used as a promotional model. 200 were produced for the National Model Car Convention held in Michigan in 1979. On arrival in England in 1980, the colour was changed to signal amber with a dark brown interior. However, a number of the Chrysler decals were taken from the factory and placed on some of the models, thus making them Code 3 versions. 2 years later, the model was changed to a 1941 Chrysler Newport pace car with a white body and red seats. Red Chrysler Indianapolis pace car decals were added. Two promotional models of the pace car in white with green seats were produced. There was a run of 140 with a Motorsport decal and a further 60 with a 60th anniversary added to the rear wheel cover. The last and largest set of models to be covered in this video is the 1940 Ford Sedan Delivery. It is one of the main models used for special limited editions for shops, toy shows and other advertising purposes. It has appeared in about 50 variations. This model was first made in Canada in 1979, and 4 versions were produced, all in low production numbers. The very first castings were finished in black with a tan interior. No decals were added, and as only 20 pieces were made, it is subsequently a very rare model. Brooklin Model's first promotional issue was for the 1979 Toledo Toy Show. It's finished in light tan with a metal side panel added between the rim lines. This issue was of 213 pieces, and 2 shade variations are known. The next special issue was for the Mark products. 100 were made, the first 50 of which were produced in Canada, finished in dark brown with gold decals, which were applied after the models left the factory. They appeared on various parts of the body on different models. This is especially noticeable on the second 50, which were made in England, and these were finished in a much lighter brown colour. They're from the smooth-sided casting, and a few were never decalled. The rim-lined body was seen on all Canadian castings and a few early English ones. The smooth-sided panel version allows more room for larger decals to be used. The fourth and last Ford van to appear with a made-in-Canada baseplate was for the Canadian Toy Collectors Society. It celebrated the 1979 Toronto Toy Show and was in fact assembled in England. 60 pieces were made. The decals for the doors were ordered in positive and negative versions. The positive ones were used and the negative decals attached to the base with Scotch tape. Some of the spare decals found their way onto the smooth-sided version, which is a darker blue and is a Code 3. The 2 dark blue models, shown here, are the only ones known. The BF Goodrich model in blue is a very attractive piece, and with only 50 produced, it is highly sought after. One of only 100 and a very scarce model van is this maroon version. It was chosen by Optica Bucci of Bern, Switzerland. Canada's Pacific Coast Toy Show model for 1984 was this bright blue Ford van with its striking decal. It was the second year of their Brooklin Special Model Series. The same van was used again in 1987, this time in pale blue metallic with blue and white decals. However, there is a very rare paler shade known. Coca-Cola models exist in many variations. A few have ridged sides, but most have smooth. The size of the decals vary, and many read "Drink Coca-Cola," but there is at least one "Enjoy Coca-Cola." The decals were applied in the USA, and these attractive models are Code 3s. These red CTCS models for 1980 with gold decals totaled 125. Some were ridge-sided and some smooth. There are examples of both positive and negative decals. Both ridge and smooth-sided castings are also to be found on the only standard issue of the Ford van. Pat O'Neill worked for John Hall in Canada. This model is now deleted from the standard range. There are 250 examples of Harrah's Automobile Collection 1985 vehicle auction van. Note that the cream version, shown on the left, has no decal on the door and is rare. On the Hershey van, there are 2 sizes of decal. They were probably from different production runs, and they also have different colour interiors. 100 of these models were produced. This is the much sought-after junk model of 1981. Although the certificate states that it was a limited edition of 50, there were in fact 53 made, numbered 00 to 52. The numbers are painted on the bases in silver. The letters J-U-N-K are the initials of Jim, Yuli and Nicky King, collectors of miniature cars and mechanical toys in Holland. It is a superb model. Even more difficult to find than the junk model is the Indian River Fire Department issue of 1980. Note the small decal on the door. The klaxon horns are fitted to the front fender or the roof. This is a simple but attractive model. Separate metal side panels, similar to the Toledo Toy Show model, are used on the Lamberts of Leigh Street issue, of which 100 were made. 2 shades are shown here. Some have certificates, but many models are reported to have left the shop without one. Here are two James Lake auction specials. $250 black ones were made for the 13th annual auction, and 140 orange ones for the 16th auction, the last in the James Lake series. In 1985, the Maidenhead Static Model Club commissioned 150 white vans with blue club decals. The model came in a special individually numbered blue box. 25 mini bolide vans were produced for the mini bolide shop in Colmar, France. This is a very highly prized and sought-after piece. Another very desirable model is this mobile oil van. The white vans had a tan interior and the cream ones a red interior. 26 were shipped to George Maxwell of Minigrid, Ontario, Canada. In 1982, 50 models of this model auto van were produced for the Leeds model shop run by Rod Ward. It's now a difficult piece to obtain. This yellow van with shell decals was made for Model Garage of Redruth. 185 were made, and it can also be found in a lighter yellow shade. From 1986, 200 were made of this blue National Deaf Children's Society issue. It is fairly easy to obtain one now. This nutmeg ambulance is one of 450 and is quite a popular model. The 1984 Old Toyland show model in bright red is from a low production run of just 100. This easy-to-acquire Philadelphia fire ambulance had a production run of 300 in 1984. In contrast, only 50 Randall's Auto miniatures, all individually numbered, were issued in 1982. Being an attractive model, it is rare to find. 1988 was the 400th anniversary of the Spanish Armada, and Peregrine Models of Plymouth commissioned 150 special editions of this van to commemorate the occasion. In 1981, these models were produced for Spielwaren Dannhausen, a model shop in Aachen, Germany, to mark their 60th anniversary. The first grey and canary yellow models had their bases engraved 1 to 150. A further limited run in grey and creamy yellow were commissioned. The creamy yellow models can be found with different coloured wheels. Also shown is a rare dark yellow. The Springfield Fire issue, with its combined roof siren lamp and gold decal, has a unique front bumper casting incorporating a special grille guard. It's a very popular model, and 100 were made in 1985. 250 Toronto Works Department models were commissioned by George Maxwell of Minigrid. It comes in two variations, one with the telephone number on the hood and one with it on the side panel. 1984 saw the first model made for Weber's shop in Fort Worth, Texas, USA. 67 models for their 67th anniversary. Another first, this time for the Wessex model and toy collectors. The model is dated 1987. 75 were made. 150 red vans were made to mark the 25th anniversary of Yateley Commercial Motors Limited. This Code 3 ambulance is of simple design with only a red cross decal, but with fender-mounted combined siren lamp, it's an attractive piece. It is believed to have been converted in Holland and is probably the most difficult of all the Ford vans to find. The black Salvation Army van was produced in 1989, and it comes with a numbered certificate. 175 pieces were made. Wheaties red Ford van, with its very smart decal, comes with right-hand drive. 750 pieces made in 1990 were commissioned by the Model Cars of the World shop, Australia. In 1991, 800 models were made for Huggett Electrical Limited. The first 100 came with certificates. This concludes the Ford van section and the catalogue of models BRK 1 to 9. The next video will start with the 1949 Buick Roadmaster. The future of Brooklin models looks good, but for confirmation, let's go over to John Hall.
I think like any company, we have to see growth for the future. To maintain the size of the business, its profitability, its future, there must be growth. Growth depends on the collector. And based on the last 17 years, I see the collector market growing very healthily. There are 3 Brooklin clubs in the world. Who would have thought 10 years ago there'd be 400 shops in France alone specializing in model vehicles for collectors? Our plans for the future involve an updating of the range. For 1992, we plan 5 new models. We're dropping 5 models from the range. So even the average collector who's not intensely committed to obtaining our very rare models will have some unusual pieces in his collection that will never be produced again. Probably in the next 3 to 4 years, you'll see our collection change completely. The models that we have today will not be available in 3 years' time. And I hope we stay around as long as the models.